Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gassy Jack Gear Reviews. Thanks for tuning in again. I have another comparison between a watch that I just received a couple of days ago, which is this Rolex Submariner No Date, reference 114060, against the Seiko Turtle, the reference number SRP775. Customary wristwatch check. You've probably seen this if you watch my videos. The Casio F91W, the most prolific watch in the world, and the watch that gets the most wrist time in my collection, because it's simple. I don't have to worry about it. It's light as hell. It's accurate. And it's cheap. I think the battery would cost me probably 25% more than the watch cost me if I was to go and get a new battery for it. Anyway, without further ado, the Rolex Submariner, no date. Like I said, just picked this up the other day, and it is brand new. It's a 2017 model. I am interested in seeing what they come out in Baselworld in the 2018. I love the lugs on this Submariner. And I know that a lot of people, and you can chime in if you don't like them, I know a lot of people like the more traditional Submariner and the look of the lugs, and they like the pre-ceramics and everything else. For me, this is my favorite Rolex Submariner. This current iteration, the 114060, the beefy lugs, this, what did they call this? The Super Oyster case or whatever it is. The thicker lugs, the way those lugs stick out more, and the contrast between the size of that 20 millimeter bracelet and the lugs, I love it. And the ceramic bezel, the sapphire glass, I love the look of this watch. It's my favorite looking watch for a sports model. That's not to say there aren't some close contenders, because over here is one of them. I absolutely adore the Seiko Turtle. It's got the 4 o'clock crown, and this one has the 3 o'clock crown. I prefer the 4 o'clock crown. Now, that being said, I would love to see someone do some Photoshop and put a Submariner with a 4 o'clock crown to see what that looked like. I think it's a better design. Functionally, I think it's better for a dive watch to have it at 4 o'clock, because it just, I shouldn't even say for a dive watch, for all watches, so it doesn't dig into your wrist as much. Like if you're one of those people that wear your watches on your left hand and close to your hand, when the watch goes like this, or you put your wrist up, it can dig into your hand. Now you can see I have that little nub on my wrist there, that bone. If you can kind of see it, but anyway, it's fairly pronounced. And I wear my watches behind that because of it. So for me, it doesn't matter functionally, but for in general, I think a 4 o'clock crown is better. The Seiko Turtle has a day and a date function. Both of these watches have screw-in crowns. Both of them have hand winding capability and hacking capability, which means that, for anyone who doesn't know, hacking means that if you were to unscrew the crown, I'm not going to because with gloves it's really clumsy, but if you unscrew the crown all the way and pop it out all the way, it will stop the second hand. So then you can, what you do is, to set it accurately, you get the seconds to hit 12, you pop it out all the way at 12, and then you set the time 1 minute ahead of what, say, your phone or a very accurate atomic clock says, and then you wait until it gets exactly that next minute. So say it's 5:14 right now. Or say it's 6. I'm sorry, I'm gonna look at this. So say it's 6. Say it is 6:12 right now. I would pop that at the 12 o'clock. The seconds at the 12 o'clock. I'd pop it all the way out and stop the seconds hand. I would put it 1 minute ahead to 6:13, and would wait until my phone. As soon as my phone's popped to 6:13, I'd hit that real quick, and start that seconds hands again. So it'd be very, very accurate. That's how you set time accurately with these watches. The accuracy is there's a big difference in accuracy between these watches. This movement here is the 4R36. So some people say it's kind of like the 7S26 with hacking and hand winding capability. I don't know if that's completely true. I've heard that a lot. If anyone knows, chime in below in the comment section. Is the 4R36 simply a 7S26 with hand winding and hacking capability? I don't know. And they're both in-house movement. So the Seiko has the in-house movement, the 4R36, and the Rolex has the in-house 3130 movement. Okay, the power reserve on the Seiko is about 41 hours on that movement on the 4R36. On the Rolex, the 3130 movement is about 48 hours. Neither are stellar. I mean, 48 hours is pretty standard. I'm not sure why this is less than 48 hours, to be honest. Is it because it has a day and a date function? Does that affect it? I don't know. But standard watches are on 48-hour power reserves. It tends to be the sort of benchmark. The accuracy. The 4R36, the Seiko, gets around plus 4.5 seconds, okay, to negative 35 seconds. So four plus four, what is it? I'm reading this off a sheet that I did before. Plus 4.5 to negative 35, or is it plus 50 to negative 35? Anyway, if you were to ask me, I think this watch, when I wear it several days in a row, is off by about 25 seconds. Okay, this one tends to run fast by about 25 seconds a day. Okay, the Seiko. This one here is COSC certified. Superlative chronometer. It's going to get plus or minus 2 seconds a day. Okay, on average. So it depends on if you're sleeping in a certain way, whatever. But on average, it's going to get plus or minus 2 seconds a day. I don't know what it's getting right now. The dials. Let's take a look at them. If we look at these dials, that Seiko, the dial, okay, I really like it, but it's not. I'm not going to call it black. It looks like it's like a dark, an extremely dark brown. Like almost black, but it has a brown hue to it. And it has gold-colored metal outlining those hands as well as the markers. And the markers are nice and creamy. Whereas, and it's going to be like a gold-colored stainless steel, but it's beautiful. And in the Rolex, it has all the hands and the markers are outlined in white gold. The bezel inserts. The Seiko came with an aluminum bezel insert, so painted aluminum bezel insert, and it would have scratched and it would have faded. And I was lucky enough to find a manufacturer who makes ceramic bezels for them. And so I bought it. And so it's a ceramic bezel and it's beautiful. Look at that. Look how brilliant that is. It really is really nice. And it's convex. So it sits downward. Doesn't bubble out, it bubbles downward, which is kind of cool. It's convex. And I don't really know of many that are like that. It's kind of cool like that. And it has those hands painted gold. Now they are not loomed. If you see my Seiko Sumo video, that one has a bezel from Fully Loomed Bezels. The company's called Fully Loomed Bezels. And on my Sumo, they're actually illuminated. This one is not. The markers do glow green on the Seiko, and they glow blue on the Rolex. Don't ask me which is better. If you like blue better, you're going to like that better. If you like green better, you'll like that better. I kind of feel like the Seiko Lume is a bit brighter, and I kind of feel, or I've heard, that the Rolex Lume lasts a little longer throughout the night. And like I said, I've had this watch. It's Sunday. I've had it since Friday evening, so I don't really know yet. Haven't really taken a look at that yet, but that's what I've heard. As far as depths go, this watch is good for 200-meter depth. It's from what I've heard is Seiko lowballs themselves, but it's good for at least 200 meters depth. Okay, it is ISO certified. It says divers 200 meter, which means that it is ISO certified. This Rolex is certified for 300 meters. I don't dive, so you know what? 50 meters is good for me, to be honest. I like watches with at least 100, I'll be honest. But I've had watches that are 50 meters. Some people say, with 50 meters, don't even take them in the shower. If you see my state of the collection video, I have a quartz Swiss Army watch that my brother gave me when I was about 20 years old, and I'm 44 now, and it works beautifully. And I wore it every day for, well, more than a decade. Okay, and the bracelet wasn't the best. Didn't have solid end links, and the one I busted and never was right after that. But the movement's been fantastic. It's 50-meter water resistant, and I've gone canoeing, swimming with it, abused the hell out of it, never leaked. So I don't know. I think it depends on the manufacturer, but each of these watches is good for diving. You're not going to go wrong with it. If you take a look at these side by side, I haven't seen anyone do a comparison between the Turtle and the Submariner, but the Turtle is 44.3 millimeters across. Okay, the Rolex is 40, and due to that cushion case, I think some watches you look at and you can't notice a huge difference. It's 4.3 millimeters. It shows. What do you guys think? Does it on camera? Sometimes it looks a little different than off camera. Even off camera, it shows. Okay. That cushion case, it's so retro though. I love it. And the Rolex case with those thick lugs, love it. The Rolex has a ceramic bezel, and the Rolex ceramic bezel is actually painted with platinum, which is pretty cool. It's got that pip at the top. It's got the pip at the top of the Seiko Turtle as well. The bracelets. So on the Seiko Sumo, it's a 22 millimeter bracelet. So lug width is 22. On the Rolex, it's 20. I prefer 20. Now, because the Seiko is such a big case, and it looks big. You know, you hear 44.3, you're like, oh, it's a big case. It looks big. And so it can pull off a 22. But I think it needs the 22. Whereas if you look at the Seiko Sumo and my comparison video there, it has a 20 millimeter, and I think it really, even though that's a big case, it tapers down. It looks great on that 20 millimeter bracelet that the Sumo has. And this looks fantastic, I think, with the 20 millimeter bracelet, even with these big lugs. In fact, with these big lugs, I love the contrast. It's one of the things I love about this case. I love the contrast between the lug size and the bracelet. Some people don't. Like I said, some people prefer that older case style. I don't. I love this case style. Let's get to the clasps. The clasp on the Seiko is a standard Seiko. So you lift this up, no lock there. It's just press fit. And then the double deployment here, the buttons on the side, one there, one there. You push them both, and it lifts right off of that little pawn or little, what thing? Looks like a little metal penis or something like that. Anyway, so that's the male end, and that's the female end. Okay, and you can see here, that holder, when I push, it opens up. Feed me. And guess what? It's feeding it. Okay, so anyway, And it's got 4 holes there, just like the Sumo does, for adjustments. I love the fact that it has 4. I don't love the fact that they're visible. It looks cheaper, okay, but it does a great job. 4 adjustments is great. This has a stamped clasp, standard sort of stamped clasp. It does the job. It's nothing fancy, but it does the job, and it's not going to break. So I can't stand when I hear people saying, "Oh, well, they need a Seiko needs to be putting milled clasps in all their watches. Those stamped clasps are gonna, they'll break." No, they're not going to break. Maybe break, no pun intended, but they're not going to break. This clasp. Okay, so securely snaps in there, pops off, and then this part here is hinged. Okay, so if I pull this up, watch, it's hinged. It'll lift. See that? And I'm gonna pull it up and lift it off, and see that hooks in there. It's got a nice milled clasp. Okay. And it's sturdier. I mean, when you feel it, it's much sturdier. But I have no fear of a stamped clasp breaking. Okay. And then here's the real jewel. Look at this. So you have no holes, nice and clean, no holes in the side. The adjustments. This system is, in my opinion, the best system that's ever been developed thus far. I've not seen what's coming out of Baselworld 18, but thus far, 2017. Well, it's now 2018, but this is a 2017 watch. If I watch, I'm going to pop this up. I'm going to press it. It's going to snap up. And then this thing can shift. It can move all along there. All the way from here, all the way to there. From here, push it. Come on. All the way to here. And wherever you are, so I can push it somewhere in the middle or the end. And snap it back in place. That's where it is now. So there's about 10 millimeters, it seems, of play from there all the way to there. That is fantastic. I think that I'm waiting. I'm hoping that the patent on that will run out sometime. I hope it's a 5-year patent only, and that everyone can kind of just do what they want with it after, because that is the best system that I've seen so far. Like I said, haven't seen what's going to be coming out of Baselworld 2018. But right now, as of February 18th, 2018, I think that is the best system on the market. It's phenomenal. It lets you get such a perfect fit throughout the day. I love it. The only thing that they could improve upon that is that they could somehow have it that you didn't have to take the watch off to do that. That's the only improvement that I could see with that. Otherwise, this watch really is flawless. Like if I looked at the Rolex Submariner, this one, I don't like dates. This Seiko Turtle has a date function, but I didn't want it on there. I just didn't have an option. The Rolex, I had an option between getting the date and the no date. I went for the no date. It's cleaner looking. I can't think of anything that it would actually change on this Rolex. Maybe, I mean, the coin edge. I like a finer coin edge, so maybe that I could change. But functionally, like it really is. I mean, it's such an evolution of this watch, and people, some people hate Rolex, and some people who love Rolex, put their, thumb their nose at Seiko. Seiko is my favorite watch company. Not because they have a watch that is my favorite watch, because they have so many watches and they have something for everyone. They really, they do. They have lots for everyone. They have high-end watches in their Grand Seiko lineup. They have fantastic dive watches. The Marine Master arguably is one of the best dive watches out there. Even the Seiko Turtle, the Seiko Sumo, the SKX. The SKX is less refined than all the others. But I like say the Seiko Sumo. I love the Seiko Sumo. That's one of my favorite watches. But the Rolex Submariner has been an evolution. They make these little changes throughout time, and presently, I think it's one of the best watches out there. I'm not saying it's high horology, and I will never call Rolex high horology. I've said this in other videos. I can't stand when people, there's Rolex people, and they thumb their nose at other watch brands like Seiko um, or whoever. I mean, that's, I guess, Seiko's one of the most popular watch brands out there. So that's why I said Seiko. But they thumb their noses at other watch brands thinking that Rolex is so much better. And Rolex is fantastic, but it's not high horology, okay? And I'm gonna make a point of doing this. See that watch back? There's a reason they don't want to show their movements, because they're not refined. And when I say refined, they're not decorated, okay? They are refined. They're great watch movements, but they're tool watches for the most part. Their movements are tough, they're reliable, they're accurate, but they're not exceptionally finished. If you take a look, I mean, if you were to take a look at this Rolex movement and you were to take a look at the Seiko movement, you're not going to go, oh, that Rolex movement is so much prettier. You're not. But if you look at, say, and I always say like Elan and Zuna or Patek Philippe, you look at those movements and you get those movements under a magnifying glass and they're flawless. I mean, they are flawless. You know why, to a certain degree, why they cost that much. I mean, I don't think Patek goes and starts designing a watch and going, okay, well, we need to keep it under this price range. They don't. It's going to cost what it's going to cost. So they go in with quality and refinement and art in mind, and some other things I'm sure, okay? But these are just some of the things I'm talking about. They go in with those design characteristics in mind, and they just do it, and they don't give any. It doesn't look like they give any thought to, oh, well, we have to keep it under $336,000. Like, who cares at that point? If you're buying a $336,000 watch, you will buy a $350,000 watch, okay? If you're buying a $60,000 watch, you'll buy a $70,000 watch. But if you buy a $7,500 watch, you may not buy a $36,000 watch, and you certainly may not buy a $70,000 watch, and I can almost guarantee that you will not buy a $336,000 watch. So Rolex does have to keep price in mind. And if you look at Rolex watches compared to these other watches, a Rolex watch, they can produce this for much less. Let's not kid ourselves. There's a huge, huge profit on a Rolex watch, okay? Patek and them, yeah, I'm sure they can produce it for less, but my point is that the work that goes into those high horology watches is something to behold. Whereas Rolex puts a lot of work into R&D and stuff like that, and I kind of feel like that's where a lot of their money goes. But it's certainly not in the refinement of the movement. Okay, I guess that's my point. These are not high horology watches, and I guess I'm only saying that because I can't stand when people wear Rolexes and think they're the be all and end all of the watch industry, because they're not. Okay, I have a tremendous respect for Seiko and other watch manufacturers, and yeah, I'm a Seiko fanboy. I will be the first to say it. It's one of those companies that just, they have so much out there that appeals to me. Yeah, so I'm a fanboy. Okay, would I call myself a Rolex fanboy? Probably not, but there are several watches. There's a handful of watches in their lineup. Like I do like many of the Datejusts, including the newest models. I love the new Explorer. I could see myself getting that. Those are, I think that's probably, so the Sub, a Datejust, and the Explorer, I think, would be the only Rolexes that I really want. And this one being the one that I want the most, and that's why I got it first. But Seiko, I mean, Seiko continuously comes out with watches that I'm like, oh man, I love that watch. And if you see my state of collection, Seiko dominates my collection and probably always will, because I can afford Seikos for the most part. I can't afford a lot of Grand Seikos. But anyway, this has been a Gassy Jack gear review. If you have any questions or you want to see certain aspects compared between watches, just let me know in the comments or give me a PM. I'm happy to do a video, even if you said, hey, Gassy Jack, could you do a comparison video between this watch and this watch? I really want you to concentrate on this. I'll be happy to put a video together for you and post it on my site. So anyway, anyway, take care. Please subscribe if you like the video, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.